Probably not the best for my health, but totally.
Welcome to the Trinity Force Podcast. Yo, it's that Triforce cast beaming straight to your home. Grab a beer so we know Pony drinking alone. Send an email, a quick tweet, just pick up the phone. Leave a message, hit the beep if you're a creep, watch your tone. Discuss the meta game, patch notes, whatever helps your stats most. Obi-Pon Kenobi is your last hope to snatch gold. So grab your headphones and join in the fun. We'll try and force in some jokes and some cringeworthy puns. Yo, we can make it together, people. Trinity Force Podcast. These boys are second to none. Now that's the end of the intro. It's time we begun.
So when I did the live tweet for this week's episode, when we were going live, I said the Trinity Force Podcast is going live. Pone did the document this week, so it's going to be a good episode, which is a complete and total lie because we have no document.
But I was about to say,
got a little bit of a
the
document
episode this week by changing the date. You didn't even actually do that. The date hasn't been changed on the doc.
Oh,
I'm looking at it right now. Effectively nothing changed.
So
I added one thing to the previous document.
To be fair to Pone there, on all the documents that I had done for Champ Select, I just pulled up old ones and just used that as a guideline. I didn't really actually ever make new documents again. So
That's what I do. That's what I do every single time.
yeah, but I don't ever.
This is not that hard. You guys make it sound like it's a goddamn miracle.
Well, it is a miracle. Dom, you weren't here for the past year and a half or so. We didn't have documents. What were those?
Documents? What? Like sheets of paper you write on?
I tried to make
Pencil?
a document. I remember one time I tried. I was like, "All right, we're gonna make podcast notes, or excuse me, patch notes more concise." And we totally did some fucking legwork on all of it. And then the next patch note came out, and nothing happened. We just went back to our old ways.
That was a good episode, though. That one time we did it, I think.
It was because we had concise thoughts. Oh well, speaking of episodes, we had some good feedback on episode last week, so that's always good. Glad people enjoyed my tinfoil hat theory about Riot and what they're going to do in the future. Again, straight tinfoil hat.
Definitions of enjoyed.
You just
Someone
want
would have
that to
straight
happen.
argued with you.
I actually
all you
don't.
want.
I mean, we all want it to happen.
I played Flex Queue this weekend solo, and it was the worst experience I've had in League in a very
Why
long
would you
time.
do that solo? That seems terrible.
'Cause
Like I played Flex Queue this weekend with a bunch of bronze, low silver friends, and I had a great time, especially when I had to AFK in the middle of the match for 6 minutes because Kayla called me freaking out because she just tried to pay for the toll on her way to Pittsburgh for work, and thought she forgot her wallet at home, so almost drove all the way out to Pittsburgh when she just put it in her trunk when she packed her stuff. Yep, it's my life.
So did you still win that game?
No,
you know
I went 15 and 7 and we lost. And I blame it completely on me.
Yeah, that's a little bit better than my games where I was playing Talia for the first time, and that didn't go great. But
So you're gonna play
They
Talia
didn't go
tonight.
great because I was right there with you, but our teammates
play it
weren't
tonight.
doing us any favors.
they definitely weren't.
Yeah, I played solo. I played ranked solo this weekend primarily because I wanted to try out some champions that I'm not comfortable on. Like I wanted to play Draven, and I mean I'm comfortable on Caitlyn, but I wanted to play some more Caitlyn rather than just jump in on Jhin.
So you took them to ranked.
So I
Excellent
took
choice.
to the ranked flex queue because I wanted to play ranked, and I'm comfortable enough on Caitlyn to play ranked. But I've never seen so many people want to forfeit so quickly in like a year, right? Like I played a ton of fucking solo queue last season, and there wasn't that many games, but like every time that it went it was like 6-2. People were like, we should forfeit. Open mid. One person actually said open mid. I'm like, oh my god. One guy, I had, it was a complete horror story of a rank weekend, right? I could go on and on. You heard it. Like the support
think it was
player who
just
picks Janna, he's like autofill support, picks Janna.
Oh, we know you love Jenna.
God.
I think it's just a salty weekend overall. Dom and I had some teammate issues too. Must have
Oh
been
yeah,
something
we
in the water.
played Monday. Yeah, it was something in the queues this weekend.
Yeah, it's weird.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I had a lot of bad games.
I'm sure everybody else out there is going, "Yep, I had those games too." So who knows what was in the water this weekend? But hopefully, people out there in podcast land were not drinking that water, or have not dipped their head into that well either.
That's right, we're
That
not
would be
salty.
positive.
Never salty.
I'm never salty.
Oh, whatever.
Hashtag never salty.
I was
Sometimes
so
you lose
salty
games.
that I played an Aram last night, lost it, and then I was like, I'm not going upstairs. I'm playing another fucking Aram. I'm winning it. and then I won that Aram, and then I felt better about myself because I was on a 6-game
Wow.
loss streak, and I had
What's
to
that say about your life, where your self-worth ultimately comes down to whether or not you win or lose a game of League of Legends?
After a very long
you met
weekend of
him?
not winning or losing a game of week or not winning a game of League of Legends, sometimes it just helps to win.
In his defense, he wouldn't be able to face Mary. She would have slapped him. And, like, go down there and win one.
Go sleep
Piece of
on the
shit.
couch, hon.
She would say something like that too, especially if I was doing my rank grind and I didn't hit it.
Don't come upstairs if you're not a winner.
Are you lost? You think you're sleeping in the bed? No, get in the fucking couch.
Only winners sleep in the bed. So there are some people out there who are doing the math on the upcoming lethality changes. And patch 7.2, which we will talk about on Wednesday, it'll be in your podcast feeds on Friday. Lethality is changing. Essentially, they're flipping the numbers around where it's 60 up front and 40 on the back end, right? The 40 scale. What is it? It's 60%, 40% scaling with level. Did I get that right?
You get the 60% flat, and then 40% of it scales with the opponent's level.
Right.
Which is the complete opposite of it was before. So it's a gigantic buff. Like I think that's a crazy buff. It's great.
Sort of like it is a big buff, but we're talking about really small numbers, so I don't know. But there's more lethality in a lot of cases than there was armor pen. So
Well, it's a great buff for those champions who were building lethality earlier, or building armor penetration early in season 6. So when we talk, and I say previously means season 6, prior to lethality, when it was just armor penetration, right? So right now, as a rule of thumb, lethality setups are 90% as effective as season 6 armor penetration at levels 1 to 8. They catch up between levels 9 to 11, and then they eventually outscale and they become 25% stronger by level 18.
and that's just because there's more lethality than there was armor pen, right?
Right, and this is just assuming precision this is assuming precision plus lethality.
Yeah, and
marks.
that's also like it's still. I know that we've said it a lot of times. You still need to remember that this is not based on your own level. It is based on opponent levels. So AD carries benefit more from this usually because they will be fighting opponents that are higher level than them.
That's a good point. I had never thought about that, and I'm in bot lane a lot.
Right, yeah, a lot of times.
Yeah, you should be picking it up. Go get your
should, yeah.
on Nami and Dana.
So some of the big differences now is that thanks to the buff to lethality marks plus precision, it is only 0.6 effective pen worse than season 6 runes and precision at level 1. So if you're going down and getting precision out of the cunning tree, it is 0.6 less effective.
I
The
really
stepping
want to
stone
see.
to Thunderlords.
I want to see the math on that because I just saw these numbers right before we started, and that I from how he says it, it sounds like that should be everything all together is only 0.6, I guess technically armor pen worse than armor pen was in season 6, but that doesn't really make sense if you're saying it catches up in levels 9 through 11. Like there's no way that can make sense where it was flat before and now it scales.
It catches up because there's more of it. Like the items. They changed it so that it takes longer to get the same amount of armor pen that you would have had, but they added more lethality to the majority of the items out there, and that's why it ends up being such a minuscule difference.
I agree with that, but the difference would be if, let's say, hypothetically, it was 15 armor pen is what you started with in season 6, and if it's 0.6 worse at level 1, you're saying you have 14.4 at level 1. Which doesn't work. Like you're not gaining 0.6 armor pen over 8 levels.
The catching up piece of it is assuming just marks and quints. It's not assuming adding precision into the mix. Lethality runes, marks, and quints now match the old armor pen runes at level 9. So that's
okay. So that has to be a 0.6 per rune. There's no way that can be all together. If you combine everything, it's 0.6 worse total. Okay.
If you add precision to the mix, it's 0.6 total. If you don't go down the cunning tree and don't add 0.6, there's more to it.
I don't think that can be
precision.
Correct, but I can't do the math right now. Let's. Right. I can't do the math right now.
Well, precision is giving you 5.3 effective pen at level 1.
Yes.
When you pick it up now, with the new changes to lethality, and you get 3.3 flat pen as well on top of that.
What?
So sorry, not on top of that. I'm sorry, versus 3.3. Right now it's 3.3. It is now precision is strictly better with these changes than it was previously.
Yes.
Oh, 100%. It has anything
Yeah.
with lethality is automatically better. Like there's no
Well-
it would be equal at level 18 because
This is a comparison to season 6, though. Precision is now better
Yeah.
than its season 6 equivalent, which was pre-lethality. Even
Okay.
taking
Well,
that
that's
into
gonna
consideration, precision is better now.
Isn't that going to make Jace just get out of control?
Anyone that uses Thunderlords or thought about using Thunderlords, can I go back to precision? Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, hell,
Nocturne.
Talon is a top 5 winningest top laner right now. Shit.
Yeah, there's
What's the play rate?
Really low. Hilariously
Yeah,
low.
okay, there you
45.
go.
Well, still,
That means
I mean,
nothing. That means nothing to
no,
me.
it means some because a lot of people had more or less said that he was totally in the dumpster, and if he's succeeding in top lane, even with a low play rate like that and everything, it still says okay, he might not be
I mean,
as
that was the
bad
same
as.
thing with top lane Rammus forever, but that was still an equivalently low play rate.
I
Here's
guess one thing
I would say here's a good, just a baseline for you guys to have an understanding of the lethality. Let's assume Talon, right? A full spell rotation, including a passive proc from Talon at level 2, loses about 20 damage by using a full lethality rune page compared to AD. And that difference obviously gets smaller up to level 6, where it is equal, and then it gets better thereafter. So that gives you an idea. You
It's
are
not bad.
losing damage from levels 1 to 6, but eventually it starts to scale harder. And you only lose 20 damage total.
So I wonder if some of these Kha'Zix is the first person that came to mind. I wanted to go check his like main builds right now, and they're still going like attack speed and AD, but still a lot of people are building lethality items. They're getting the Duskblade, they're getting Edge of Night, and if you're adding more lethality to the equation, Duskblade gets even stronger because it has a like that pop that is plus 200% lethality, not how much armor pen you currently get from it. It's the total amount you have.
What do you
which-
mean when you say if you add more lethality?
If you add more lethality to your build
Okay.
at all, like if you just get if you have like 60 lethality, but your opponent's level 1, that lethality still stacks on Duskblade at the rate of 60, not at the level 1 component.
Okay.
So that actually I think is going to make that item very scary, where it was already getting built on a number of champions.
So
with
go ahead. No, I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm going to be curious to see if some of these like 80 assassin junglers start switching over to lethality. Maybe they don't run as much flat AD. I don't know if it's better. I don't know if it's not yet.
I don't think they will. Just because Edge of Night and Duskblade, with these changes, they automatically beat their Season 6 equivalents at level 3. And you're not building those items until level 8 or so they're strictly better with these changes than they were previously in Season 6, because you can't finish that item that early, right? So if you're not building that item to later, and you're effectively gaining maybe a third more power by just picking up that item, there's no reason to slow down your early clear and slow down, just say essentially slow down your early clear and your leveling prowess to pick up some extra armor penetration.
So let's do.
Well, I think the thing would be you're doubling up on it later on, and that's where some assassins have had issues of not being able to be effective later on in the game. Maybe this is what helps. Maybe I don't know. They still need to do better early than falling behind, obviously.
So, gut check, Adam, and don't say I would have to do the math and try it out. Do you think the armor pen build on Jhin is suddenly going to trend back into favor?
Oh yeah, I said that earlier. I think that this suddenly, Santana, when I was talking to him about it, he brought up Misfortune being good again, running some lethality. I think Draven suddenly gets more powerful by building this lethality.
Definitely.
Lucian, his win rate goes up a bit by being able to do this now, because he's still pretty bullying out early. Like his win rate went up, right? It's like 46.5%, 47% now. I think Lucian gets better at this, and I do think a full lethality Jhin page works with this, because I don't see any reason to run the extra AD when by level 6 or so. What time do you finish Ghostblade? Level 7? By the time you get Ghostblade, I'm assuming that's a bigger power spike than it was previously, just looking at the numbers.
Well, it has to be. It has to be a bigger power spike with lethality being better.
I don't think you could easily dismiss levels 1 through 6 though in the laning phase. I mean, those
Especially
are
on
pretty damn important in the
Draven.
bot lane.
Sure, you can't.
Draven especially. Draven can get away with going with lethality more because his last hit, he can control the wave easier without having the AD marks. Whereas, like the auto attackers, Ash, Caitlyn, they're still going to be getting AD marks because they have to have those control the minion wave. And because they're relying on their auto attacks to trade. And if you just give that up for lethality in your early levels, you're basically giving up the lane. That's gross.
I think he's got enough damage through his kit with the crits and whatnot to control the
Draven.
lane by just.
Well, maybe
on
last
Jen.
season, but they just changed it so he's scaling off bonus AD more than he is total.
That's true too.
And that's fine. You don't. But I mean, I guess you are. How much damage are you sacrificing there through the runes? 15. Is that what it is?
15's is
Something
straight
like that,
marks. Is all marks, I think. Or is that 8? It's
Well,
8. Oh,
eight
it's
is-
8 and 15 is with Quince.
Wins.
If I'm playing Draven, I'm assuming that I'm taking armor penetration marks and attack damage quintessences.
I can see that.
I'm
Yeah.
losing 10 from attack damage. I'm losing 10 attack damage through my marks to gain all that lethality.
I mean,
Is that
once you
because
get
you
that,
don't? Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, once you get that BF sword in your first pack with Draven, and you've got that lethality on top of it, which is going to be hitting that break-even point around that time, you're going to be unstoppable. You'll be able to 2v1 in lane.
Is the reason you wouldn't go attack speed like that AD carries normally go because you have such a disjunct like hitting style with like you want to be throwing the spinning axes more often?
You run attack speed in the glyphs.
You just said attack damage.
No, Draven's really weird.
Yeah, Draven's
his runes, he doesn't run
Yeah,
any MR.
that's what I'm at. Oh, he doesn't run. Oh,
No.
okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
because Draven gets a giant attack speed buff through his W that refreshes every axe he picks up, and then they lowered the cost of W as well, so he
Yep,
doesn't need.
okay.
You look at the Draven, and it's funny, right? Like the highest win percent runes with Draven is just because Draven's always in all the time. Draven is getting kills, right? It's such a weird counterintuitive playstyle to AD carry that it's really hard to wrap your head around when you look at it.
That's the only hesitancy I have for like a full lethality build for him because he wants to cash in those stacks early. But I like that hybrid approach that you were talking about, where maybe lethality in the reds and AD quints.
I was just thinking about that. That's kind of like the aggressive rune build. Also, really, I like poking fun at the highest win percentage core builds on pretty much every champion because those are the ones where a champion is ahead, so they usually have like 2 big items before boots are even completed. It's like, it's the highest. I got to finish my Phantom Dancer first. It's like, well, if you're ahead, sure.
Of course, it's the highest win rate build when you can get those items.
When you're ahead. Yep.
Yeah.
Or like ignite on aggressive supports or top laners.
It'll be.
What
ahead.
I keep going back to now is that serrated dirt got, changed pretty heavily. Nerfed certainly is from the marksman standpoint. Just changing it so that it's 25 flat AD and the lethality and then out of combat movement speed, which is nice, but it no longer has the after killing a unit, your next basic attack or spell
really?
deals 15 damage.
Right.
I mean, and
it's
that was
gutted.
the reason that item was so good. And now that I think about it, like that was propping up AD carries a lot more than I think any of us fully appreciated at the time.
Yeah. I still want to. I want to at some point see somebody use Poacher's Dirk because I know everyone's probably forgotten that even exists. But like the poaching knife is equivalent that turns into a serrated Dirk if you kill enough enemy jungle camps.
Now, Serial, speaking
I
of
forgot.
somebody who may run lethality, it might be Nocturne, actually, who's running like attack speed.
Oh, he already
quint.
should. He already probably does, doesn't he?
I think they're running AD. I'd have
Sean?
to look.
No.
Sean hasn't changed his rune pages since like season 3.
Yeah, I don't trust that.
I win.
No.
I trust you, Sean.
I
currently
win
no.
every game I play on Nocturne, except for the one yesterday, but I was also AFK forever, so whatever. It
No,
hurts.
the
I haven't seen like any. I haven't
Nocturnes
seen
aren't
any
running any lethality right now, but this might be a case where Nocturne maybe does run lethality in his marks.
He might
And-
now. After the changes, he might now.
Yeah, because
But-
he's getting a pretty big attack damage steroid in his Q.
Yeah,
Based on
I
what he
mean,
does.
it people forget just standing in the shadow gives you like 55 bonus AD at max rank. That's so good. So you're already getting the free damage out of it. That little bit of lethality will make a big difference.
Yeah, I think
always
that
forget
he
about that.
he had like the build I'm seeing right now is like Blood Razor Bork, And I could definitely see like Ghostblade being substituted in there as the kind of it's the same kind of thing as Bork.
Well, I mean,
it's getting like
or
a big
Warrior
more
Bork.
skilling.
Ghostblade used to be the go-to over Blade of the Rune King for a really long time. You were going like Ghostblade second item just because the active on it was both good for getting in, getting out, and then since you get the free, I'm already on you. You get immediately just start crushing people with Ghostblade. It's just with the changes with lethality, that stuff's kind of gone by the wayside.
It's also
at least like the previous nerfs to lethality.
Ghostblade isn't adding attack speed anymore. It's just adding pure movement speed, and Nocturne doesn't need that between his Q and the E because he's getting movement speed on Q. So you're doubling up on stats you don't need by building it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he'd be better off just going straight to like Edge of Night for a second spell shield.
Oh, that'd be disgusting.
Which
actually.
Edge of Night is really good. I love that.
Yeah.
Item.
Actually, you could pop your W and Edge of Night at the same time, couldn't you? Because it takes
Why
a
would you
second
do
and a
that?
half. Because it takes a second and a half for Edge of Night to activate.
Yeah.
So your W goes off, and then you kind of layer it so they can't possibly get anything onto you unless
Spaghetti
they like.
code. Come on.
Oh my gosh! that'd
Or
be cool.
you
It's a spaghetti code.
start
That's
the-
exactly as intended.
No, I mean
What do
there
you
will be
start the
spaghetti
channel
code.
for Edge of Night right when you use your ult, so then you show up with the shield and they try to hit you, and then you laugh, and then you
have another one,
use your spell shield again, and
which
laugh
gives you the
more.
attack speed because you've blocked an ability with your
and
spell
then, and then
shield.
somebody's dead, you know, because he's a murder machine.
He is.
Except for that level 1R. Fucking shortest distance in the goddamn game for any
It's
fucking
awful.
ability ever.
I don't know. It's bailed our asses out a couple times when Sean.
I'm trying to remember what it was like season 1. Like what his
it was terrifying.
It was so. I mean, I played Nocturne season 1, and he was
full
so
map
much fun
to
to
start.
chat. Forever ago. I'm gonna look up that distance real quick, but please let's talk about anything else.
If it wasn't the full map, it sure felt like it was.
But that is lethality changes in a nutshell. Is that a lot of this entire conversation should have been prefaced with to be determined, or we're just making shit up, or we're using our knowledge to try to give you an idea what we think is going to happen. Because just looking at the math, though,
We're trying to
everything's
estimate how good it's going to be.
Right? Yeah.
We think it's going to be pretty good.
I mean, the bigger question ultimately ends up being what happens in top lane if lethality gets better, or because
get more
lethality is getting
interesting.
better.
Will the tanks go away? Is that what you're saying?
Courage the Colossus is
Kinda.
being nerfed.
Yeah, courage is being
Yeah.
nerfed while they're
I
at it.
think
They're
they'll
not
have the
touching the
larger-
other. They're not touching the other resistances in the resolve tree, but
They don't need to. I don't
Well,
think you don't need to double up too much on it. Otherwise, tanks will just.
you got to be careful. Yeah, but
it's-
I mean,
If the tanks did go away and Jace is king in top lane, I could see him maybe getting the lethality. I'm not a Jace master like Santana is. So
Oh, they're
have to check with
lowering the
him.
cooldown on Edge of Night too. All
Sure
right.
are.
Damn, 30 seconds instead of 45.
Yeah, man, that item's.
But I wouldn't see someone like Camille getting it because she's got too much mixed damage,
Yeah.
and she's gonna be banned anyways. Who cares?
It's
Kled? Mm-hmm.
Kled. There you. Well,
Mm.
to jump in, he probably just wants Guardian Angel instead.
Yeah, probably. He's doing percentage health damage.
I built Edge Knight and Quinn the other day just because I was diving recklessly in the team fights. So I
That could be good.
diving in.
That's a great idea.
Oh yeah, it was fantastic. If you remember to use it, I won a team fight against the Yasuo just because I blocked his Q, which would have popped me up and ulted me. Like, it was pretty great.
You're the best.
I know, I'm great. Thank you. That's so that's pretty much lethality. Let's talk a bit about what else is on this document right now.
Nothing?
champ,
Do we have
champ pools and slow pushing?
Slow pushing. Man.
Well, that was back when we were doing a lot of the macro stuff. But
I
heck,
just wish
Mitch
more
even brought it
people
up in a game over the weekend. So
would pay attention.
Yeah,
to
Mitch
minions.
specifically asked about it, and Dom laid down some knowledge.
Yeah, why don't you lay down some knowledge again? Let's honestly, like, I didn't know. I have been somebody who never looked up or bothered to learn how to slow push a wave or fast push, or I mean fast push is, well, I guess there's a number of ways of doing things, so I'm not going to.
And you made it to platinum.
I did. So and you can too.
I mean, I can give you the basics of it, but I can't the broader discussion is why you would do either of those things. If you want to freeze the lane, you kill the melee minions, more or less in the spot where you want the lane to hold, because the caster ones are going to put more damage into your minion wave and everything, and so the waves are going to keep meeting wherever you want them to be. If you want the lane to slowly push towards the opponent for one wave, you kill all of the caster minions, and then you'll go to do something else. And so ideally, it's timed such that the minion wave ends up crashing against a turret when you are engaging on a different objective somewhere else, whether that's Dragon or Baron or a push in top lane or something like that. And as a result, the enemy team has to commit one person to go and deal with that wave. And it's a meaningful person. You can't usually commit the support to that type of bullshit. You know, we have Malzahars and Zyras and that type of champion now who deal with it a little bit better, but you know, what the fuck's Janna going to do against a giant minion wave?
Yeah, Brahm's not going to have a fun time with that.
Yeah, Brahm's not going to do shit.
Excuse me, Adam played attack speed Braum, and I think he would handle it great.
I think attack speed Braum is the future.
You're the only one.
That's why I said I think attack speed.
Put your tin hat back on.
Dude, it's permanently affixed to my head.
I'm really excited to go to PAX while you're wearing that. Like wearing a tinfoil hat the entire time and telling people about, hey, have you heard about our Lord and Savior attack speed Braum? They're like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Cosplay Braum with a blood razor in my hand. This is the best idea you've ever had.
So I am officially no longer going. I am turning in my media badge. Not doing it anymore. This is what's happening.
So that was it. That was our discussion right there. I mean, like. Oh, you know what, boys? We go from really highs to really, really lows.
Yeah, that tanked fast.
We're at the bottom, way bottom. I don't know. Dom summed it up pretty well.
Well, no, because I didn't go into why, or like, why you would freeze. I guess that's the big thing I didn't really get into. And then knowing how to get a slow push going and actually being able to do it and sort of. Like, you have to have a whole ton of awareness about what the next objective is going to be when you start a slow push going.
Slow push is effective when you're better off with your team than you are split pushing the lane, right? Let's say you're like a Maokai. Maokai is better off with his team because he actually wants to, do team things. He's not a split pusher. He's not going to take down turrets really quickly. He's not going to 1v1 people. He's going to sponge damage and initiate and do things Maokai does because he's a huge unkillable tank, right? Mm-hmm. But you also, like you were saying, you also have to be aware of objectives that are coming up and that you're going to be contesting soon, i.e. Dragon or Baron, or somebody says, hey, group up and start pushing mid lane. Everyone group up mid. So then you just got to clear out, usually get that slow push going in top lane, they go meet up with your friends in mid lane. So that when you get to mid lane and you start sieging that, a large wave is brewing in the top lane, and then somebody in the enemy team eventually has to go stop that.
And that, right? I mean, it hinges on your opponent committing to going and dealing with that, which they might not do, and you'll get something for that, hopefully, in the long term, but not. I mean, that's not always going to be the case. And then also, it hinges on their teleport not being available, I guess, because then all you've done is bought yourself 4 seconds, and that's a long time in League of Legends, but it can also be not that meaningful of a time. And then all the the work you put in. I'm not saying don't slow push. I'm just saying like it's not this be all end all strategy like it kind of was in season 3.
It's a really good strategy right now, because if you're a top laner and you can start a slow push and then you do what Punch said, you walk to mid lane, you walk to Dragon, do whatever, and you fight. Let's say you lose that fight. Let's say let's say you kind of guys stand around and pussyfoot around Dragon and maybe have that weird ass grab ass poke war, and eventually it breaks out into a full on team fight where if you're LCS, you lose one person. Each team loses one person, everybody runs away with the tail between their legs, right?
Everyone's flashes down.
Yeah, and everyone's flashes down, and all the cooldowns are used. That slow push, meanwhile, that 3 minutes it took you, is now pushing into the enemy tower and doing something for you. So even if you lose that dragon and you lose that team fight, the slow push is going to take that tower down, probably at about half health before they can respond, if not further, depending on how far that tower had already been previously how far that tower had been previously taken down. So,
and like we said, someone else has to go and deal with that. So it's pulling resources away, and that might be the difference between them taking an inhibitor and not, depending on how the fight turned out otherwise.
And if you're forcing someone to use a teleport to get there, that's much better than them using a teleport to flank your team later.
Yeah.
So
It's
I'm
really
okay with
important to be paying attention to your opponent's summoners at that point if you're going to do that type of thing, because teleports can really ruin all the carefully planned slow pushing you're trying to set up. But then freezing, why would you freeze, Mr. Top Laner?
To Flame Horizon some noob, like I did last week.
Wow,
Somebody doesn't know how to play top lane.
That was rough. Who were you
It
playing?
was rough. It was also the only time I ever played against a Camille, and I learned nothing because that guy didn't know how to play top lane. So I'm like, well, you could be playing Darius. It doesn't matter. I'm 100 CS up on you. So essentially, if you have the advantage in lane, meaning your opponent cannot approach the creep wave without taking a shit ton of damage, right? They can't get into CS. I was KO in the scenario. So Camille would come into CS, I would Q and just start wailing on her with my E. And then she learned her lesson pretty quickly. CSing is bad. I can't do that while Kayla's there. I will die. If you can do that, if you have the advantage in this matchup, then freezing the lane comes into play. Where you don't want their minions to hit your tower, because if that happens, their minion's going to die, your lane is going to start pushing, and it's going to get to their tower, and then your opponent can actually get within range of the creeps, because you can't dive the turret to harass them, or I guess you could under some extreme circumstances, but that usually ends badly for you. So you tend not to do that. And they also have the option of freezing the lane in their favor near the tower, which means they're always within range of those creeps, and it's less likely they're going to get ganked by your jungler. By freezing the lane near your tower before they get within tower range and die to it, then they have to overextend to get to those creeps, meaning they're vulnerable to a gank. And again, they're vulnerable to you just beating their ass, because you're the big baddie in this situation. You have the advantage. So to do that, I think, Dom, you touched on this earlier, you want to leave most of the time it's the ranged creeps up, but really you want to count out 4. You want the enemy minion wave to have 4 creep advantage. So that could be 4 ranged creeps, that could be a melee and 3 ranged creeps. You want them to have more creep waves than yours. So they're killing your creep wave. And then you're out of this is so hard.
No,
to explain.
I'm laughing because the listeners who are on the
They are
road
so
or at work or whatever.
It's
not even that they're lost. They couldn't see your I'm processing this and figuring it out face.
I'm trying to make pictures with my hands, and it doesn't go well with the audio.
You can get a freeze going with fewer than 4 caster minions. The more, the better. But the big thing is that if you have the option to clear out all of them, don't do that. You still want to just keep leaving casters there, even if it means you have to sit and tank a few hits. Run your potions, get your health up nice and high so that you can keep the minions exactly where you want them to, so that your minion wave crashes into the same spot over and over and over. And this is one way that you can actually sort of pull yourself back into the game. If you can freeze properly without taking a whole bunch of damage, because basically you got a turret right behind you, you can deny an opponent top laner a whole bunch of CS to the point where they're going to have to go into the jungle and take stuff, or try to do stuff in other places. It's not going to work in every single matchup, but there are definitely a lot of videos out there where top laners who were down end up coming back and winning because they just froze the lane right where they needed to and got a whole bunch of gold and CS, and their opponents got fuck all.
Thank you, Jim. You're the
Dom,
best.
you're the best. Yeah, I couldn't start a freeze for the life of me this weekend. Played Maokai. Every time I came back to top lane, the lane was pushing right back into the enemy, and I kept dying. It was a very frustrating game.
Yeah, I got to hear the other end of that.
Oh, eventually I just shut the fuck up and started playing, but I was frustrated there for about a solid 5-10 minutes. So
we should mention, to break a freeze, it's as simple as pushing your wave into the turret. The problem, of course, is getting to that minion wave. Because again, if you're at the disadvantage, that enemy is probably not going to let you get close to the minions.
Yeah, I mean, and that's easy. You can kind of do that with someone like Maokai, who's got some ranged abilities.
Yeah.
You're not going to do it with Wukong or Dr. Mundo or shit.
Mundo's got ranged abilities. I can just throw Qs.
Yeah, it's a lot of Qs to kill down a full minion wave.
You're aiming to kill their minion wave faster so that your minion wave builds up enough that it's inevitably pushes into their tower. Because your opponent can't tank a minion wave and a half. They just start losing too much health.
Which is why Proxy Singed were. Holy shit, so much Proxy Singed over the weekend.
Hey. Supposedly it's good against
both
Maokai.
games. Well, it was the same dude in both games.
Yeah.
On opposite teams. But
You know, there's a way to stop proxy singe, right? Like you just pretty much forfeit your first wave, and then you stop him in the jungle. Like you meet him and you you force him to
our
run into you with the
jungler.
minions.
our
with
Kindred
you
did that.
No, he didn't. Kindred went straight for him instead of doing his buffs first.
Oh no, you don't do that. The top laner just goes for him. That's all you do. You don't chase him to the jungle.
Yeah.
You what you do is your wave is walking up. You follow the wave, and as he comes up to you to fight, you just fight him in your wave, and you win. And he can't stop that wave, so he can't proxy anymore.
Yeah, there was our Kindred instead got first blood and then complained about getting no leash because obviously it was way later in the game. Like you got 400 gold, A, and B, I don't know what you want at this point.
You are the one who chose to go and deal with that. I mean, proxying is not a common strategy like it was in season 4 with Druid Droid.
Was that?
But-
Fun?
Oh,
I
it's
don't remember. They all run together.
I think so.
Also really funny that he complained about that in all chat, and Singe said, "Well, you did come over to interfere with me," and we were all like, "Yep,
Yeah.
that's the issue." Like you played yourself there.
Champion pools?
I mean, we've talked about champion
Pool
pools
party,
times
all the
over.
pool party skins is all that we need to do with champion pools.
The only problem I have discussing specialization versus wide pools is the fact that we've talked about this previously, and that's if you want to climb, you should just pick to what you're good at. Pick one.
Which Sean vehemently disagrees with.
Yeah, I don't agree with
Well-
that at all. But
That's because Sean hasn't made it to diamond face.
Wait. By play what you're good at, you mean whichever method you prefer?
No.
And Cheer disagrees with that? Or what are you talking about?
I disagree. I really think that you should have a solid pool of 5 champions that you can play. Like at least pick 5 and just roll with those. And one thing, because if you're engaged in the game, and maybe you can be engaged in the game just playing one character, that's great. Whatever. It's pretty easy to get burnt out for a lot of people if they only play one character, and if they can pick 3 to 5, they can cycle through and keep playing different things to sort of keep that motivation level up and keep their enjoyment level up. And I think if both of those are elevated, they'll play better than if they're just grinding out with one person and that's all. It's just literally a grind of playing one thing.
See, now here's
I agree with that.
where for shits and giggles we're gonna argue.
Why do you have a wrench in your hand?
Yeah, why do you have a? I am so uncomfortable. That's Adam's.
Because I'm cosplaying Heimerdinger.
He's
right
threatening
now.
me with a weapon right now.
I'm threatening you with Heimerdinger. Right
Yo,
now.
Heimerdinger,
Is that
yeah,
going to be
calm
part
down.
of your? Is that going to be part of your Blood Razor Braum?
No,
outfit?
it's part of my
This is a
Heimerdinger
wrench.
Blood Razor Heimerdinger skin that or cosplay that I'm putting together. No, this is where just for shits and giggles we're going to disagree because I guess it depends. Well, I agree with you, Sean, in the fact that it depends what type of player you are, right? Like, if you're the type of player that gets bored easily and can't stick to the one thing, and for whatever reason, just you need to play something different every game, or else you just can't play this game, then fine, do that. But, excuse me, my argument would be that you should try to stick to 1 or 2 champions, especially if your champion gets picked against you, because eventually you learn all the ins and outs of that champion, and you learn all the every matchup and how to play the lane, all the shit we talk about all the time, and then you can start focusing on the larger aspects of the game, and then that can help you push yourself forward and carry some more. Now, that is all dependent on you just looking at the bigger picture, and that's I want to climb. And what's the best way for me to climb? And you have to ask yourself that. Do I want to climb by playing a bunch of champions because I don't want to get bored? Or am I okay with sticking with 1 or 2 champions and just brute forcing my way through solo queue? And I think that goes based on personality.
But that, there's another piece of that in that if you have a wider champion pool, you are more easily able to adapt to changes in itemization, which happens, every 6 months or so. You can adapt with any buffs or nerfs to champions. So, if you have a wider pool, you might end up having one of those champions get buffed so you can play them a little bit more, but you have others to go back and play as well if they are nerfed. And in that same vein, you don't ever have to worry about things being buffed or nerfed because you have a backup pool of things to play if they do get buffed or nerfed. Like it's the difference of like, okay, let's say that you all you want to do is learn how to play Lee Sin, and Lee Sin requires a fuckload of time investment to get good at the same level as, I mean, mind you could do more if you're really, really mechanically skilled and you know what you're doing and all blah 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 than if you were playing some like Volley Bear, for example. But if you're really good at Volley Bear, you can fudge some stuff a little bit. All that being said, if they nerf the fuck out of Lee Sin and all your chips are in the basket of Lee Sin, now you have to completely reteach how to play something else.
Or Lee Sin is so good that he's
banned,
or there's a high likelihood that that the opponent team is just going to pick him before you get a chance to pick anything.
Sure.
I mean, and you were running into that last season with your climb to diamond. You were a Jin one trick, but Jin was a high priority champion.
Yeah, and of course I just fell back to Ezreal when I couldn't play Jin, and that wasn't a big deal because I could play Ezreal.
It's so funny that you say that though, because that was every single AD carry's fallback. Oh, this thing that's really, really good that the other team got before me, or I didn't get to play because it was banned. Fuck it, let's play Ezreal because that's what happens every single time.
Yeah, sure.
Like,
why would it?
Yeah. It's either that or Caitlyn. It's one or the other.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah,
and I definitely fall victim to that too. Those are like the two safest AD carries. Of course, you're gonna fall back to those if.
Which, and I mean, again,
scary.
that goes in line too with like, okay, so you're specializing in potentially two champions there because you can fall back on either of those because they are safe, but like, let's say that they ban Jin and you put a decent amount of time in on Draven and they haven't seen Draven in a while, and Draven is so aggressive if you know what you're doing and they haven't seen it for a while, and then you can pull that out in case they pick it just because they think it's overpowered, and they might not know it as well. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Who the fuck knows? And then you just play Draven and you know what you're doing, so you crush them. That would be super ideal and it would be nice, but if you didn't have a wider champion pool, you wouldn't have been able to do that in the first place. Probably.
I think anytime any of us talk about playing a one trick, and it's to have two or three champions that you're good at. Like, you're one tricking that champion every time you can, but then you're falling back on that next champion. That is not quite as good as your one trick, but still, like that Draven where I have a pocket Draven, right? I can pull it out, I can play it when I need to. This isn't like the LCS where we need to be able to flew out on every single champion that's available now, especially with 10 bans. But I think I think it's pretty obvious in the fact that every argument that we have is always going to have a downfall. Like, there's a downfall to playing 5 or 6 champions, and that's you don't learn the matchup as well as you would if you were playing 2 or 3, right? Or you don't.
I will agree with that unless you can play 50 plus games a week,
Jesus
which is
Christ,
incredible.
Full-time
That's
job.
a crazy amount of games. But all right, let's say 20 games. You play 20 games a week. That's a significant amount of games. Like, if you put that in, I maybe get to play 10 games a week if I'm lucky.
Pretty much.
If I'm lucky, that's like if I fucking put the work in on Saturday and Sunday, maybe I get to do that. Which, I mean, yeah, you could learn a bunch of matchups really, really well. That comes down to a pure time investment thing. If you don't have nearly as much time to play, yeah, probably better to specialize in 1 or 2 things. If you're playing 5 games,
so really
5 to 10 games a week, play a couple champions.
So really this comes down to just time investment, like, depending on where you're at in your life. Because I know sorry to cut you off, but I know we have a lot of listeners who are fathers or wives or whatever it may be that play this game.
Or like the college years that they were playing the fuck out of this game are a little bit gone now that they've entered the workforce, or like you can't just dick around after school when you're in high school or something like that, and you're in college and you're taking some really difficult classes, so like you're not able to play as much, or you fucking take those classes and play a fuckload anyway. It's going to be different situations for different people. That being said, you just got to find the play style that's right for you and run with it.
Pretty much, yeah. I've had some people write in that have been like, I'm a father of 2, newborn, 2-year-old. I don't get a lot of time to play. Totally understand that. Like, and I got out with solely your advice. And like, if you're that person where you can only play from like 6 to 8 o'clock in the morning because your newborn is sleeping, then fucking just pick one champion. Be Declawed, right? Just pick Pantheon and just go for it. But
Yeah, I mean, definitely,
whatever it
if
is.
that's your situation, definitely just maximize your fun. You know,
Yeah.
what champions do you enjoy playing? And narrow it down to if you like playing 20 different champions and everything, well then fuck, good for you, man. You're getting a lot out of this game. But otherwise, just like boil it down to the champions you good and enjoy playing. Don't fucking worry about the meta because I mean, you can get away with most. Yes, the meta stuff can give you an edge going into games, but you can get away with most stuff up until like plat and probably mid plat at that because even
Yeah,
in low plat you're
through
still
plat
gonna
too,
get
I'd say.
yeah, you're still gonna get matched up with a lot of people in gold.
What was I gonna say? Shit, I fucking lost my thought train of
Something
thought.
important?
Nah, it's never important.
Oh.
Just saying what you're all
Okay.
thinking.
I'm
Yeah,
not thinking anything.
I don't remember. I was gonna go somewhere with that, and completely it's gone. Helpful, I know. Well, boys, and men, and whatever you want to fancy yourselves.
Men.
Indifference.
Friends.
We're gonna call it this.
Friends.
We're just gonna call it a short one this week.
Well, you don't want to talk about The Last Jedi?
I mean, we could.
What?
I mean, we could. They announced episode 8's title.
Who is the Last Jedi?
We don't know. That's why it was
already know.
that's the puzzle.
Man, what a puzzle when the solution was laid out to you at the end of the last episode.
Don't know what you're talking about.
Actually, it's
Yeah,
probably not
Rogue
gonna
One.
be-
Rogue One ended with a bunch of Jedi.
Spoiler alert.
With 3 more movies to go before that point.
Rogue One wasn't really part of. I mean, it's part of the series. Don't get me wrong, but it's not part of the new trilogy.
Yeah, it's just standalone stuff.
Right.
Holy shit, Arden Sensor has a big buff on the PvE.
Well, I guess we'll talk about that on Wednesday, won't we?
Holy
Chris,
shit, yeah.
You broke my
I didn't
Aurelia
know.
more.
Give.
I like
Chris
that
a-
item. I
Oh, wow.
Well,
Yeah, that's
see
pretty
it?
good.
before we trail off with the rest of this, guys, thank you so much for listening to Trinity Force podcast. I know you guys enjoy our 2 podcasts a week. Sometimes we don't go a whole hour with the first or second podcast of the week. This is no fault of anybody on the show. It's just, we knock out all the ideas and we don't have any left. But I'm sure you guys enjoy every piece of what we talk about. At least I hope you do. If you're going to be at PAX
Better.
East, please come join us. Serial, myself, and my wife will be all out there doing interviews. Please let us know via tweet, email, Facebook, or whatever way you want to get us messages. Just let us know if you're going to be out there. We would love to see you. We'd love to talk to you. We'll be tweeting during the day when we're out there. Again, that starts it's March 10th to 12th. Is that what the hour is?
Yeah, that's correct.
So we will be in Boston. We'll be hanging out. We'll be doing a lot of stuff. We'll be busy getting a lot of interviews, but we'll definitely try to make time to say hi to everybody and at least give you guys a firm handshake and say thank you so much for listening to the network. Patreon.com/T-Force Network. We'll get 2 Champions Select podcasts out here in the next week and a half. I promise. I'm working very hard
on
and
deck?
diligently on that. We don't have anything lined up yet, but we will very shortly. I'm talking to some Kindred people right now to try to get Serial. Serial doesn't know this, but I've been talking to some Kindred people to try to figure out who I can get on.
Yeah, this is news to me, but it's good news.
Yes. Other than that, guys, that's it. That's
mean,
the
if
episode for this
it's
week.
Kindred, then the first question you got to ask them is just, why?
Why not? It's Kindred.
Good for you, Dom. I like that. Why?
And that's the end of the episode.
Yeah, that's the end, guys. We'll see you all.
No,
next
I mean
week.
that's the end of the Champ Select episode.
See you guys.